What if I told you that the hardest moment of your life could become the most important moment of your life? I know that sounds strange, because when life gets difficult, it doesn't feel like an opportunity. It feels like pain. It feels like uncertainty. It feels like waking up in the morning with 1,000 thoughts running through your mind and no clear answers. Maybe you're struggling financially. Maybe you're dealing with heartbreak. Maybe you've worked hard for something and watched it fall apart right in front of you. And if that's where you are right now, I want you to stay until the end of this episode, because I'm going to share a story that completely changed the way I look at difficult times, and it might change the way you look at yours. A man was walking through a village when he noticed an old farmer standing beside a horse. The farmer's only horse had run away. The villagers gathered around him and said, "What terrible luck." The farmer simply replied, "Maybe." A few days later, the horse returned and brought 3 wild horses with it. The villagers came back and said, "What amazing luck." The farmer smiled and said, "Maybe." A week later, the farmer's son tried riding one of the wild horses, fell off and broke his leg. The villagers returned, "What terrible luck." The farmer replied, "Maybe." A month later, soldiers arrived to recruit every young man in the village for war. Because the farmer's son had a broken leg, he was left behind. The villagers said, "What incredible luck." The farmer answered again, "Maybe." The lesson? Most of us judge our lives too quickly. We call something a disaster before the story is finished. The reason we become negative isn't because of our problems. It's because we convince ourselves that our current situation is permanent. We think, this will never get better. I'll never recover. I'll never be happy again. But here's the truth. You don't know what's coming next. The job you lost might lead to a better opportunity. The relationship that ended might save you from years of unhappiness. The failure you're experiencing today might become the story that inspires someone else tomorrow. There comes a moment in every difficult season when the real battle is no longer happening around you, it's happening inside you. At first, most people think their biggest challenge is the situation itself. They believe the problem is the lack of money, the failed relationship, the missed opportunity, the rejection, or the uncertainty about the future. And while those challenges are real, what often determines the outcome isn't the challenge itself, it's the way we think about the challenge. 2 people can walk through the same storm and come out completely different. One person becomes bitter, the other becomes stronger. One person gives up, the other keeps moving forward. One person sees an ending, the other sees a beginning. The difference is perspective. Perspective is one of the most powerful forces in the world because it shapes how we interpret everything that happens to us. The events of life matter, but the meaning we give those events matters even more. When something difficult happens, our minds immediately begin creating a story about it. We ask ourselves questions like, why is this happening to me? What does this mean? Will things ever get better? The answers we give ourselves influence our emotions, our decisions, and ultimately our future. Think about a person who loses a job. One person sees it as proof that they have failed. Another person sees it as an opportunity to explore new possibilities. The event is exactly the same, but the interpretation is completely different. And because the interpretation is different, the outcome often becomes different too. This doesn't mean you should ignore pain or pretend that everything is perfect. Real positivity is not denial. Real positivity is the ability to acknowledge reality without surrendering your hope. It's saying, this situation is difficult, but I refuse to believe it will define the rest of my life. One of the greatest truths about hardship is that it often reveals strengths we didn't know we possessed. Most people discover their courage during moments of fear. Most people discover their resilience during moments of struggle. Most people discover their inner strength during moments when they have no choice but to keep going. Imagine a piece of coal deep beneath the earth. For years, it experiences pressure from every direction. If the coal could speak, it might complain about the pressure. It might wish for an easier path. But under enough pressure, that coal eventually becomes a diamond. The very thing that seemed unbearable becomes the force that transforms it. Life works the same way. Many of the qualities we admire most in others, strength, wisdom, patience, resilience, determination, are usually developed during difficult times. They are not built during comfort. They are built during challenge. Resilience doesn't mean you never feel discouraged. It doesn't mean you never cry or experience moments of doubt. Resilience means you continue moving forward despite those feelings. It means refusing to let temporary setbacks become permanent defeats. Another powerful mindset shift involves gratitude. When life becomes difficult, gratitude is often the last thing people want to think about. The mind naturally focuses on problems. It focuses on what's missing, what's broken, what's uncertain, and what's causing pain. But gratitude changes the direction of your attention. Imagine walking through a beautiful garden while carrying a magnifying glass. If you spend all your time looking for weeds, you'll find plenty of them. But if you start looking for flowers, you'll find those too. The garden hasn't changed, only your focus has changed. Life is often the same. There will always be things that are difficult. There will always be challenges to overcome. But there will also be reasons to be grateful. There will be people who care about you, lessons you can learn, opportunities you haven't discovered yet, moments of peace, moments of beauty, moments of hope. Gratitude doesn't eliminate problems, but it prevents problems from becoming the center of your entire world. And finally, one of the most important mindset shifts you can make is learning to focus on what you can control. Many people spend enormous amounts of energy worrying about things they cannot change. They worry about the past. They worry about other people's opinions. They worry about future events that may never happen. They worry about circumstances outside their influence. The problem is that focusing on things you cannot control often creates feelings of helplessness. Instead, ask yourself a simple question. What can I control today? You can control your attitude. You can control your effort. You can control your habits. You can control your response. You can control the choices you make. Even when life feels chaotic, there is almost always something within your power. Sometimes that power looks small. Sometimes it's simply getting out of bed when you don't feel like it. Sometimes it's making one phone call, applying for one job, taking one walk, reading one chapter, or choosing to believe in yourself for one more day. But small actions matter. Small actions create momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates hope. And hope creates transformation. Remember this. You don't have to control everything to change your life. You only need to take responsibility for the things that are within your reach. The future is built one decision at a time, one thought at a time, one action at a time. The moment you stop focusing on everything outside your control and start focusing on what you can influence, you begin reclaiming your power. And once you reclaim your power, you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself the author of your story. That mindset shift can change everything. There are moments in life when it feels like everything has fallen apart. The dream you worked for disappears. The relationship you believed in ends. The opportunity you counted on never arrives. Or perhaps life simply doesn't look the way you imagined it would. When this happens, many people ask, how do I get my old life back? But sometimes the better question is, how do I build something even stronger than before? Rebuilding yourself is not about becoming the person you used to be. It's about becoming the person you need to become for the future you're creating. The first step in rebuilding yourself is accepting that healing takes time. We live in a world that loves instant results. People want immediate success, immediate happiness, and immediate solutions. But growth doesn't happen overnight. Healing doesn't happen overnight. Transformation doesn't happen overnight. Think about nature. A tree doesn't grow to its full height in a week. A flower doesn't bloom the day it's planted. Everything meaningful requires time. The same is true for personal growth. Be patient with yourself. You don't need to have everything figured out today. You don't need all the answers. You simply need to keep moving forward. The second step is creating small daily habits. Many people wait for motivation before taking action, but motivation is unreliable. Some days you'll feel motivated, some days you won't. That's why successful people rely on habits instead of feelings. Small daily actions have extraordinary power. Reading 10 pages a day may not seem significant. Exercising for 20 minutes may not seem life-changing. Writing in a journal for a few minutes may feel insignificant. But over time, these small actions compound. Months later, they create massive change. Never underestimate what consistent effort can accomplish. Another important part of rebuilding yourself is protecting your environment. The people around you influence your mindset more than you realize. If you're surrounded by negativity, criticism, and hopelessness, staying positive becomes much more difficult. Choose relationships that encourage growth. Spend time with people who inspire you. Spend time with people who challenge you to become better. Spend time with people who remind you of your potential when you've forgotten it yourself. At the same time, be mindful of what you consume. Your mind is constantly absorbing information. The books you read, the videos you watch, the conversations you have, the content you consume every day. All of these things influence your thoughts. Feed your mind with ideas that inspire hope, growth, learning, and possibility. Another key part of rebuilding yourself is developing self-belief. Many people wait until they feel confident before taking action, but confidence usually comes after action, not before. The person who seems confident today was once uncertain. The person who appears successful today was once a beginner. The person who inspires others today once doubted themselves too. Confidence is built through experience. Each time you face a challenge, you prove something to yourself. Each time you continue despite fear, your confidence grows. Each time you survive a difficult season, you become stronger. And perhaps the most important step of all is learning to trust the process. Not every chapter of your life will make sense while you're living it. Some lessons are only understood in hindsight. Some opportunities only become visible after you've walked through uncertainty. Some blessings arrive disguised as setbacks. Trust that growth is happening even when you cannot see it. Trust that progress is possible even when it feels slow. Trust that today's struggles are not permanent. Most importantly, trust yourself. Trust your ability to adapt. Trust your ability to learn. Trust your ability to recover. Trust your ability to keep moving forward. Because no matter how difficult life becomes, you are never truly starting over. You are starting again with more experience, more wisdom, more strength, and more resilience than you had before. And that changes everything. The version of you that emerges from this season may be stronger, wiser, and more capable than the version that entered it. That's the power of rebuilding yourself. It's not about returning to who you were. It's about becoming who you're capable of being.
As we come to the end of today's episode, remember this: difficult times are not here to stay forever. The challenges you're facing right now are only a chapter of your story, not the entire story itself. Every setback can teach you something valuable. Every struggle can make you stronger. And every small step forward brings you closer to the person you're meant to become. Stay focused on what you can control. Be grateful for what you have, and trust that better days are ahead. Thank you for spending this time with me on the English Journey podcast. I hope this episode has inspired you, encouraged you, and helped you practice your English while learning something meaningful. If you enjoyed today's episode, please support the channel by subscribing, liking the video, and sharing it with someone who might need to hear this message. Your support helps us continue creating content that inspires, educates, and motivates people around the world.